Yes, okay. Just anyway, we will start at the time, so I think that we can start just to be on time. And welcome to everybody to this open debate on the present situation that has been created by the pandemic. Actually, we would like to start to think. We would like to, of course, to reflect on what has happened, but I think that it's now time also to go a little bit far away, and also start to think about the future perspective. So I do really would like to promote this debate as a moment, a community moment, a co-design moment in some sense, because we were talking about co-design this morning. Several papers present consideration about co-design, and we should consider this moment not just as a simple debate, but really as an occasion to start co-design. And co-design start to think about problems, strength, and weakness, and then move toward the opportunities. And this is more or less what I suggest to all the panelists to try to do during this time, this hour and a half that we try to discuss about the transformational learning ecosystem induced by the pandemic. And also is an invitation that I do to all the participants. Some of them also as demonstrate their intention to participate in the debate. So because of this, I also invite to the panelists to be as short as possible. Of course, within the time that they need anyway. So as first round, I would like to invite everyone, as I say before, to reflect a little bit about weakness and criticalities, but also strengths that emerged during this lockdown period. I think that all you have experienced this period, and all you had time to reflect on this. Of course, we will need more time to go in all the details of what's happened, but nevertheless, I think that each one of us has already some clear vision of some of the relevant issue that has affected all the learning ecosystem and all the actors that took part in the learning ecosystem. So as most of you know, because we have published all the information on the website, this open debate as a main panelist, Diana Andone, that is the director of the Learning Center of Polytechnic University of Timisoara, and that was also very strongly involved in supporting the online education during this COVID time. We have Fernando Delgado, that is the director of a cluster of school, Portuguese cluster of school, the João Estevão at Aveiro, and that was collaborating with Oscar in many research. We have Monica Di Vitini, that is a professor at Cooperation Technology Department of Computer Science of the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and moreover is currently is a member of the management team of the Norwegian Center for Excellence in IT Education. Then we have Nick Nistor, that besides being a professor at Ludwig Maximilian University at München, is also one of our invited speakers, like Albert Sangra, that has given his talk this morning. It is is director of the UNESCO Chair in Education and Technology for Social Change at the Open University of Catalonia. And finally, we have also Rebecca Price, that is an assistant professor at Delft University of Technology, and as also was very involved in a reflection about how this situation affects the life of university students, for example. So I will suggest to follow this order. So I'll give the floor to Diana for his first 5 minutes reflection about criticalities, weakness, and strengths.
Thank you very much, Carlo. I prepared the presentation. I don't want to be, if I can show it, I'll go very fast over it. If not, that's fine. Is everybody okay with that or not?
Yes, yes, please share the,
thank you.
The screen.
And don't worry if you see that there are a lot of slides. I will go very fast over them, and especially because there are several ideas here. So basically, do you see normally the screen or not?
Yes.
Okay, so you see not without notes and everything. Okay, just to be sure, right? It's never very clear how you see it. So basically, my university is a university which celebrates this year 100 years of existence. And for those who are not really aware of the Romanian situation, we are the first university in this side of Romania, which was part of the Habsburgic Empire before the unification to Romania. And beside of the other cities, we are the first one which started with a technical university and not with human sciences, historical and law universities, as it was the case in the other cities. And the e-learning center celebrated 2 years ago, 20 years of existence. So mainly the strengths. We started for some years. I'm the director of the center for 10 years now. And one of the things which I first done when I came here was to have a clear idea about the UPT digital education, as we call it, which gone through 3 stages in our opinion, which is digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. And the first bit was obviously to take care of the tools, to create and to use the digital tools, then the core, then to create the content, the resources and the materials and the educational resources for that, and to train the staff with the skills of being able to use a blended learning support and digital tools, and also to be able to allow them to understand better how the web and the digital education can really work. Then it was digitalization with the something which we call it now the digital education ecosystem, which involves more than only content tools and so on. It involves also training, support, webinars, students creating content, quite a lot of things. And also, as I said, student as co-creator and collaborators of education. And what I see somehow, and probably this is also for the future, and I'll speak further about that, is the digital transformation, which requires also some academic culture changes, not only to have the tools and the skills and to know what you're doing, but to do a complete paradigm shift into your mind and to do the transformer of the education. So basically, these are the main strengths, and we've done the core, which is clear and LMS with a lot of other things among them, including a MOOC environment. And obviously, since 13 March 2020, somehow we were prepared beside of the core and so on, because as I've been seeing what is happening, we work very closely with the Wuhan University. We had a common degree with them, so we've seen what happened. So we knew that this time will not escape after we've seen what it was in Italy. And we started with methodologies, guides, and training from the first day. We had them installed in the 7th of March already. The regulation had passed the Senate, and we were able to move quite quickly to what we call it remote education. Obviously, we invested a lot in the content, even before, but even more after that. We are now at more than 20,000 new resources with a lot of interaction in some of them, which are integrated into the campus. We use video conferencing for online meetings. This is something which is new added because the virtual campus exists since 2004 and in its actual form exists since 2008 and obviously constantly updated and improved. And obviously what we changed and what was completely new was students evaluation and finals, which we never done it online. And we introduced a lot of guides, methods, and so on trying to get the people and also the students and also the staff to change their way of doing the evaluation and the assessment. This is how somehow the virtual campus looks now. And this is just briefly to show you how we increased our workload. And in fact, the entire campus increased 50 times. We are now at 80 million hits per day, activities per day, not hits, activities per day, which is quite a lot. We never seen that it's going to be this increase. And I'm very happy to say that this increase doesn't involve only going and reading materials and accessing materials or accessing links and so on. It involves a lot of interactive activities, as you can see from the graph below. You can see how much a free day can mean nowadays for the campus. I like this graph a lot because this is the Easter day. And you can clearly see that before that, we never had this. So we had quite a linear way and then a small drop when it was 3 days. But people, this is something which I will say also as opportunities or threats, that people nowadays are much more aware on how they're using technology, when they're using it, and they try to learn how to balance the use of technology with other life things. What we've done in terms of support was more than 38 training hours, webinars, about 43 hours online, which we spent, a lot of guides and tutorials, some of them created by students, almost half of them. So we strongly involve the students into this creating of the tutorials and the guides for them and for the students. Weaknesses. The biggest weakness is that people understood this emergency remote learning as online learning, which is, we know those which were doing this for years is not really the case. Instead of getting a lot of the knowledge and information which we try to pass to adapt it, they wanted to go from one-to-one. So they wanted the one-to-one hours from face-to-face to online. And this was the biggest challenge which we faced, to try to convince them that this is not the approach. And we finally even make it as a how to say, as a Senate legislation inside that the hours are changed. So if you have 3 hours of lecturing, before you don't need to do 3 hours, or you are not supposed to do 3 hours online lecturing. It's going to be 1 hour and a half maximum, and a lot of other activities online. The biggest divide was also for some students. The university acquired some equipment, tablets and laptops, and also SIM with internet access for about 250 of our students. We are at this moment 19,000 students in the university, which required this access. And we had students which had no access to internet and to computers and to nothing, and we needed to give support. This was valid also for some professors, which were not even in Romania, some of them. The emergency state found them abroad in other places, and they couldn't return so quickly and so on. And obviously the biggest problem was the digital skills, and not necessarily only of professors, but also of the students. The other one was assessment. Quite a lot of my colleagues wanted to move completely like this. They used to do exams like this. This is a real photo from one of our exams in campus, which is the written exams at quite a lot of disciplines, and then to have something like this. And we strongly oppose this idea, but not successfully everywhere. So a lot of the exams were written exams under video supervision. And then quite a lot of them were multiple choice quizzes, also under video supervision, quite a lot. The good thing is that they develop a lot of question banks, which they improved over the time. So they changed, they learned how to do it much better. And even today and tomorrow, we pass the final exam for our graduation as a multiple choice quiz. Our students, beside of their diploma work, which they need to present and to debate in front of a board, they also need to pass an exam which evaluates about 10 to 15 different disciplines and with more than 100 questions in a multiple choice quiz, which was also before, but it wasn't like a multiple choice quiz. Now it's a multiple choice quiz. So that's the biggest, how to say, idea for me as a small break here from the strengths and the weaknesses, is that we need to change the paradigm of this remote education and how we are really doing it, and also the impact which is going to have about the further of the education in the universities, at least probably not only Europe and Romania, but probably even worldwide. Probably Europe and also Romania has a bit of differences here, mainly because we are state-owned universities, quite a lot of us. We are free and public education, so the students pay no fees normally to study. They only pay if they don't fulfill their, how to say, exams and everything in time. So, and they get a lot of grants and a lot of support to be able to stay in the campus and so on. So basically that's briefly what I was thinking from my university perspective in terms of strengths and weaknesses. I don't know if I really answered to your questions. I tried to get you an overview of what we were also doing.
Okay, thanks, Diana. I'm to excuse myself with Stefan, because before, when I was listening the panelists, I missed to add Stefan Trabzonmatu, that is a full professor at and senior researcher at the Institute of Artificial Intelligence of Romanian Academy of, and so that are the Polytechnic of the Bucharest that is also hosting this conference. So I am terribly sorry, and I give you immediately the floor, so you can give another Romanian perspective about weakness and strengths.
Okay, thank you. No problem. So I'm, as Carlos said, full professor at Polytechnic University of Bucharest, Department of Computers. And we have the biggest department, the largest department in Romania, I think, not only in computers. We have almost 400-500 students each year. And for us, it was a very interesting experience for me personally. As Carlos said, I also am a researcher at the Romanian Academy Institute for Artificial Intelligence. I'm working for more than 26 years in e-learning, especially intelligent tutoring systems and computer supported collaborative learning. And this last month were, even for me, which I have a lot of experience, were very interesting and an experience. I will not, I have not prepared slides. I just wanted and understood it's maybe more important to have some insights, some opinions about what happened. But because Diana said about what is in University Polytechnic of Timișoara, in University Polytechnic of Bucharest, we have for all the faculties the Moodle environment. We are using it for many years. I don't remember how many years. For our courses, for many years, we used for putting slides, putting documents, for different assignments and so on, for announcements. But this year, of course, we had to use it more intensively. We use it for exams, and it was a very interesting experience. For example, I have a course on the second year about algorithms, and we have 4 parallel series of students each year. And with other 2 colleagues, Traian Rebedea and Costin Chiru, we had an exam, online exam for 3 series. That means there were 400 students, and we used it for 3 types of online exams. There are three parts of this exam. It was a quiz. It was also a part where they have to write some algorithm and upload, write on the paper and make a photo and upload it. And also it was another part in Moodle, like also the quiz was on Moodle, to write some text, not really an essay, but there were some theoretical questions and they had to write. So it was a very interesting experience because we succeeded to use it only when uploading the pictures. There were some small problems because of the number of, hundreds of students uploading at some moment, hundreds of pictures of files was okay. But as insights, of course, we had also during the semester online courses using Microsoft Teams. And for me, it was interesting. It was the first time we had such courses. Students were, it differed from a master. I have both a master and undergraduate level. It was quite different. At undergraduate, there were more questions. At master, not so many. Also, some after each course, we have some tests, some quiz about the lecture. So it was interesting, but also discussing about some problems, some drawbacks. We had also discussions in our council of department and of the faculty. And also some other colleagues remarked. So it is a difference when you teach in an amphitheater from this online. And I'm also a specialist in human-computer interaction, in a face-to-face, on a physical. It's also more, there are also more communication channels, for example, gesture. Even if in a video you may have some gestures, but also sometimes how you move in the amphitheater or some other gestures. So this lacks. So the embodiment, I think, is very important in communication, and it lacks in video. And to do not discuss about exams. I suppose that all of you who had online exams, it's a big problem of students using other sources of information, copying one from another. They opened channels of communication between them. So it's very hard, it's a problem, how to control this aspect. And we tried, but for example, quizzes in Moodle, you know that you can, you have some options to put them in a random order, to change, make some changes in order that they do not have enough time to exchange results. Also, is this facility that they cannot go back to a previous. So this, from my opinion, even if I worked for many, many years in e-learning, I'm still supporter of this physical presence. And I don't think that this online is perfect. Another problem in Polytechnic University of Bucharest, and I suppose in all technical universities and also in medicine and other, it's a problem of laboratories. Of course, in our Department of Computer Science, it's simpler because you can have computer programming or different other related disciplines online. But in chemistry, in physics, in biology, and so on, there are virtual laboratories, but it's still a problem. But what, in fact, I'm a supporter of computer-supported collaborative learning. I have been working many years, and I've made with my students experiments from 15 years ago on using chat as a support for face-to-face, for class-based learning. So students were given some homework to discuss on chat about some theoretical aspects or to solve some problems online. So we have used this for many years and also developed some learning analytics tools. For example, Mihai Dascalu, you know, that reader bench environment was used in the first moment for this kind of interactions. And it was an amazing experience for me. I use it in a course where, of course, students had a lecture and had practical activities, a laboratory, and I gave them this homework, and they were very enthusiastic. They like it very much because they are using chat normally. It's a normal way of. Even it was very nice because 1 year I formed the groups. They worked in groups of average 4 students. Some years I said, you group as you wish, but in a year I grouped them me personally. And it was amazing that after the end of the semester, one of the students wrote me and said, Professor, oh, it was great. You know, because you grouped us, I met my future wife. It was, so it was.
Okay, so thanks very much, Stefan, for your contribution. Thank you. I would like to ask to the other panelists to stick as much as possible to the 5 minutes, otherwise we cannot will be able to do the second round and to give also the word to the other attendants. So let's go ahead with another perspective, and this time I ask Monica to give his perspective from Norway about weaknesses and criticalities and strengths.
Hello everybody, I'm trying to share my screen so that I have very few slides. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Perfect.
You are...
Before I start, I would like to start with a disclaimer. I think that we have all heard many times at the beginning of this global of this crisis, we are in the same boat. And then you probably have also seen hundreds of memes that say, yes, we are in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat, definitely. So I wanted to make it clear that what I'm saying is from my perspective, the way I have been living this experience, and probably if you look at this painting, we are in a good boat. Norway is a country that has not been impacted very serious, knocking on wood until now, by the. So we had a lockdown and everything, but not the dramatic situation of many other countries with a good economy, good infrastructure. So probably in a quite, yes, in the storm, but a relatively quiet area in a good boat. So I think that this is important to put in perspective also when we discuss this possibility, because we tend to generalize and think that the way we have done things that at the collective or at the individual level are the whole picture. And I think also that, so it's important, but I also think that we have an unprecedented possibility to understand how to go through storm when storms coming, if we are able to understand why we have taken look individually and collectively different choices, and how can we learn from it. And now it doesn't go. It doesn't move the. Let's see if I can do it from here. So when I talk about the strength, I will not focus so much on the specific university, but try to look at it from a national level, because I think that is interesting in the case of Norway to see how the national discourse has influenced the decision that have been taken at all the level. And there is a concept that is very Norwegian. I'm not even able to translate to other languages. Dugnad, that is something that is deeply part of the Norwegian culture. That is communal work that we do on a voluntary basis to keep things running. It can be starting from kindergarten. When you have kids, you would go and do the cleaning at school or for whatever. So, and this has been since the beginning the approach. It's not the government giving you direction, but there is a collective effort that we have to join. So not so much because we are forced to do things, but we wanted to preserve the global good. And another thing that I think has been very interesting, compare also to other countries. I've followed a little bit Italy, but it may be the focus on children. Since the very beginning, yes, we have economical problem, the works and whatever, but we have to think about children. We have to think not only about how to bring them at school, but how we promote their well-being. So, for example, our Prime Minister had 2-3 press conferences that were dedicated only to children, answering questions from children. And I think that this has also helped to keep school or to close as little as possible school, to reopen them quite early. So I think that where we put, this is a part of the discussion that I will also take later, but what we value in a society, I think that this pandemic has really put in evidence the value that are behind our society. And from this perspective, I think that the attention to children, to well-being, to the collective participation, to a global effort is important. Now, it's pretty clear that Norway is a country with few people, good income, excellent infrastructure. So not all of the measures that have been put in place here can be transferred to other contexts, but still, again, is a matter of value. Now, when I think about weaknesses, following the direction that Carlo has given us, I'm thinking here more about our university, but it's something that I've seen also reflected in other contexts. I think that there is, and we have to accept, a very varied level, competence level, when it comes to the capability of teachers in school and at the university level to innovate and to use technology to innovate. So I think that these are different things that competence skills that we have to take into consideration. I think that a lot of the workload and the responsibility has been left at the individual level, them being the individual teachers, the student, the parents. And this is for me a dramatic question of how many have we left behind in the process. How many children didn't have parents who could help them with homework? How many teachers were not able to create a proper infrastructure? Another weakness that we have experienced is a very complex learning ecosystem. And a survey, I think, that we have done in our university has pointed out almost 50 different systems that are used within an organization for supporting communication, cooperation, file exchange, and so on. So we have the organizational tools, and then a number of them that are used in different ways. So becomes very complex for people who have to use this system and make sense of them. And I'm also, I think, a weakness that I've seen at our university, but not only, I have to say, is that I think we have put too little attention on the things that really counts. We have put a lot of attention on doing things as we used to do, just making them possible online. Is this really where we want to go? A lot of attention on exams and cheating. Yes, it's important. Is it where we should put our focus and resources when we are in the middle of a pandemic and students are struggling with so many other things? So this is just a brief overview of the strengths and weaknesses that I wanted to share with you, and I think I will leave the opportunities for and threads for later on.
Thanks very much. I would like to make a jump and go to the Portugal and ask to this time the perspective from the school. So I will ask to Fernando to give his own perspective.
Okay, good afternoon for everyone. Well, my perspective is to share with you our solution, and I think I will cover all of aspects that Carlo asked us for answer. Well, José Estevão Cluster Schools, it's well, a big school with seven schools from preschool up to 18, up secondary school. We have one secondary school with 1,500 students, one primary and the low secondary with 800 students, and more for preschool and primary from 3rd to 10 years old. Well, our pedagogical body has 35 educated teachers, and 200 teachers is our main main body to our organization. We have also 2 psychologists, 10 administrative, and 70 persons of all services of these schools. Well, this image is the image of the happy days when students can be very close. And this is the first thing we know. It's what can we do when this kind of image it's impossible, when these students are each one in their homes. Well, our organization has some technological skills and aspects that we need to know, because we think that all things are connected, and the infrastructure of this organization needs to know all aspects of technology. We have it's our start point before COVID. We have SharePoint portal for staff and teachers, and some public information, and a back office top down for the administration to the teachers to manage pedagogical services and pedagogical information and directives to the teachers. We have also a few services and some few interactions between the staff and teachers. We have Office 365 platform only to use for the email for the teachers and staff, and the synchronization with the Active Directory with our servers. Well, the applications are local applications for the staff and for the teachers. We have the POS and some web services for teachers, students, and parents to manage the classes, to manage the summaries, to manage evaluation scores, etc. But the first thing we need to know is local access, the mainstream of this organization, and some web services for some things inside the school and the education. Well, when we go to COVID, we need to know what can we do when all students go out, when all students go to their homes, from preschool to secondary school. And the organization need to know what can we do to resolve, to make a solution for this kind of problem. Well, we think about our skills. The organization participate and its partner, and it was partnered in many projects, in many educational projects about the technologies, about the classroom, about the distance learning, about the blended learning, developing, exploring, and the testing the solutions. Our team is not an expert, but we have very good skills in ICT, and we know all platforms from Google, from Microsoft, etc. This is the main point. We see all students go out, exit, and what can I do? We can ask for if the way to solve this problem is teacher-driven learning or self-directed learning. I don't know if we ask for this, what is the best solution, teacher-driven learning or self-directed learning? The other question that we need to know is if the solution is a synchronized solution or a non-synchronized solution. And the last one is if the solution is with short-term assessments or long-term assessments. The organizations have these three questions to answer and to solve this problem. Well, the first one solution is not about the students, is not about the classroom, but it's about the staff and the teachers. And we put all persons in remote work, all administrative persons in remote work, and also all teachers in remote work. Remote work not with students. Remote work, not remote teaching. Remote working for teamwork and for answer to parents and answer to the community. The solution for each administrative and each teacher is in the work they can access to all applications in the school about with remote and some web services. After this, we need to simulate our face-to-face interactions. and our face-to-face interactions, we solve this with Skype for Business. We have a front office to parents and the community interact with the schools and the school, and one online back office to teachers interact with administrative office of the school. The second one is to simulate the teachers, the teamwork with the teachers, the teamwork with the teachers to prepare their classes, to prepare their materials, to prepare their lessons. Well, we simulate the same. We create in Skype for Business for each class one team, and all of classes and all of teams of teachers has one link for each group, and they meet when they want. They share the documents online when they want, and they have also the administration room to put their questions, to put their problems always online. Well, Skype for Business was created to simulate all interactions, all physical interactions, all face-to-face interactions inside the school. But what will be the classroom? It's the next question. Well, we decide to use the Office 365 platform, and we also decide to create a distance learning model for us to rule this process. And this is the four strengths and weaknesses that we can put in the system: the technological decisions, the pedagogical decisions, the information, and the training skills for the persons. We inform many times all of our community about our decisions, and that step works. We create also 3,000 accounts for students, and we identify also all students that they don't have a computer or connectivity to access at the internet, and we cover this, and we achieve a solution for all students that we have. With the teachers, we train these teachers with meetings, with online meetings, 2 per week, to allow teachers to work with students. Well, about the model, we create a model that select for level, for discipline level, this kind of process. The week of each discipline starts with a lecture, a model synchronized with a
Fernando, maybe we can you can illustrate your model later as a proposal for the future, so we can just
okay.
Thanks very much. So I would like to ask now Rebecca to provide his perspective from the Delft University of Technology, also from the side of the students, because I know that you spend a lot of time on that.
Yes, thank you, Carlos. My name is Dr. Rebecca Price. I'm an assistant professor at the Delft University of Technology and in the Faculty of Industrial Design Engineering, and there I teach and research this thing called strategic design, and that is the use of design as a strategic capability in organizations as an alternative to strategic management and some business methods. So this idea of co-creation is very familiar to me. I have a background in industrial design, so I have been a product designer, and now I am an academic. And here at TU Delft, we have about 2,000 students in our IDE faculty. We have more than 100 PhD students and about 200 academic staff. So it's one of the biggest design schools in the world. And what we pride ourselves on at TU Delft and in the IDE faculty is really having a strong relationship with our students, seeing them as peers, working with them, seeing them as emerging leaders, rather than saying, well, I'm the teacher, you're the student, and having this really strict hierarchical structure. So design is not rote learning. You cannot learn design by being given information and then being left on your own. Design, you really must learn design and creative problem solving by having dialogue with other people to work out values and tensions and problem solve together for the people that you are designing for. Now, of course, COVID has struck, and the Dutch government put in very strict conditions that all campuses were to close, all learning, all courses and forthcoming courses are to go 100% online. And so we have been operating in that way for the last, well, since March, since the announcement, and we will continue with 100% online after the summer break, starting in September is our first semester. And we see this as a design challenge because, as I said, our students are not students, numbers, you know, on your class list. Our students are people, and they have their own vulnerabilities. They have anxieties. Many of them are in financially vulnerable positions to start off with. Many of them are international students who live in very small little apartments. And you really have to wonder, what is the state of their mental well-being in all of this? And I think, content aside for a second, these are just people who are young and who are trying to find their way in the world. And as a teacher, you can see education as something that is transformative for them in this time. It's an escape for our students to be able to learn with us, and we can give students purpose in this time where all of the news around them is so negative. And so what I've been doing along with my colleagues at the IDE faculty is we have a well-being group. So what I can do is share my screen maybe. And you can see my slides okay, Carlos?
Yes, not in a presentation mode, but we see your...
Yeah, okay. So here's the well-being group. And this is me in the bottom here with the dog. So we like to keep things lighthearted because it's tough work learning about how difficult our students are experiencing their environment. This is their environment. I mean, this is one environment, a good environment. Of course, I had consent from the student to share this. She has her desk on the bottom right corner. She has her bed in the corner of the left side of the picture. And then, you know, she has this chair in the sunlight, and that's it. And she has her own bathroom, but she has to share a kitchen. And from here, this is the center of their world right now. And if you were to spend every single hour of every single day in here trying to learn what is already difficult content, then you can imagine these people are having a tough time. Another one here, our graduates, this is Sophie. She's completing her graduation, which is a Master of Science degree. So she has to do her final thesis project in the bedroom. She's presenting her thesis, you know, that she spent 20 weeks on, and she has, you know, a 40,000 word thesis, and she's presenting it in front of her bed, which is bizarre. And she already is working on a difficult project around redesigning psychiatry. So this is a little bit of theory here about why design is already difficult to learn, because and this is for the creative industries and design engineering also. It's not specific to industrial design. It's that design involves a lot of choice, a lot of flexibility, and incomplete information. And if we want to be future orientated, of course, you encounter lots of tensions about what that future should look like. And then from an educational point of view, the leaders there in the educational space say, you know, that design in particular, because it comes with uncertainty, it can be a cause of paralysis in itself for design students. So they feel overwhelmed already without COVID. So I guess if I wanted to problematize this, you could say that if design is fundamentally about decision-making in the presence of choice, like what the world ought to be like, which is pretty heavy topic to begin with, then decision-making in a lonely bedroom term study design process for ambitious designers of novice beginner competent status is especially problematic. And so I wanted to know what was keeping our students motivated so we could tap into why they're motivated, design courses for that motivation, and also to understand, okay, are there really concerning patterns out there of our students who are in vulnerable positions, and could we remedy them with policy and policy changes to how we teach? So for example, could we be more flexible with the grading scheme? And I guess what I was really asking was, how vulnerable are our students as people? And so I did a survey of 100 grads. You can see a little bit of a breakdown there, asking these two questions. And I found out their motivations, of course, they wanted to finish their degree so they could get a job, although there was a little bit of, you know, a little bit of pessimism about the job market. They wanted to involve their peers and learn together, to be on time, to justify their investment, to enjoy themselves, and to do a project they could be proud of. And the greatest challenges came from this sense of Zoom fatigue, which I'm sure you all understand. Feeling alone. Like I've had a graduate, you know, really openly say to me, I've never felt so lonely. This sense of Groundhog Day, so every day is the same mundane story, and that this is depressing in itself. Of course, their financial vulnerability and being so far from home. So what I started to do was I started to reformulate these problems that our students were facing and start to say, okay, how could we support our students with giving them exactly the right support message that is shaped from understanding exactly what we're teaching? So rather than just look after yourself, it's more like much more focused in our support. We're supporting designers trying to learn design. So here is an example that students cannot carry the design process alone on their shoulders, that they have to share that load with the people around them. So that, you know, and here you have Atlas carrying the load, and then Prometheus carrying the light. And the Prometheus's flame is the flame of Theodels. So there you see in the bottom right-hand corner, which we're trying to create community with our students, even when they're so far from us or so disconnected from us. So I created a whole series of these, and I posted them online in a blog through LinkedIn, and then I shared that, and that is how Carlo came into contact with me to share today. And I'll be writing about this further, and always driving for the integration of well-being into how we teach, because we are developing people who are going to have to go on and solve the problems that the previous generations created for them. And there's some pretty big problems out there. You know, you have climate change, you have inequalities, you have design for the reform of health systems. These are pretty heavy responsibility tasks, aren't they? So we better make sure that we look after these students while they're with us. And I think that's all from me, Carlo. I mean, I think one of the strengths that we have here at TU Delft and in the IDU faculty is that we, as I said, we flatten that hierarchy. We treat our students like peers. We give them that agency, because one day they will be running the show. And if you treat kids like kids, they will behave like children. If you treat children like adults, they will understand responsibility, and they will meet you at that level. Well, we're not dealing with children in a university, but we are dealing with young adults. So this is my contribution, and
thanks very much.
I'm open to questions as well.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So let's go now to the let's transfer in Germany and ask Nick his perspective about weakness and strength that has been experienced this period.
Okay, thank you. I have to unmute myself first and find a button for that. I will start with a very, very simple statement. I didn't have any problems. And the problem with simple statements is that they need rather complicated explanations, or let's say complex explanations. So I was lucky enough not to have real problems with a lockdown. And when I say lucky, I really mean luck, because it's, so in this case, luck means the possibility to use resources, to have resources available, and to be able to use them in that situation. So I should probably start by explaining where I work. So I'm at the University of Munich, Germany, so we are on lockdown since April, I suppose. I don't really remember because I was on holiday. And the lockdown caught us in the middle of the holidays between the terms. So that was one big luck. And then the question was, what did I have to teach? So first of all, lectures. For lectures, we have a collection, I think, of hundreds of lectures on video that we have recorded in the last 10 or 12 years. And so I just switched my good old lectures online for my students via Moodle. So that problem was solved. I had a lot of seminars that are highly interactive, and for interaction we have already didactical concepts with which we have been experimenting for many, many years. So as Stefan knows, we met, yes, some 25 years ago on a conference on learning on the internet. So we have much experience with online seminars. And actually I had, because I went on holiday, I had planned my, my seminars in detail in a way that was anyway at least half online. And the other half was so structured that I didn't have practically any effort to do to switch that online as well. And the background of this ease was research on log file analysis in Moodle. It was such a concept that would allow us to see the interaction in Moodle and not much of it outside Moodle. And also a very structured way of telling the students what to do. And well, this is Germany, and German students are used to clear directions. And will do that. And they are very happy if they have a very clear, very detailed schedule of every course. And they are very unhappy if they don't have that. So I had prepared that in order to do the research during the term, and that was before my my holidays. Well, that's a nice part. We don't always have that luck, and not all my colleagues are that lucky. So the big problem are the exams. So some of the exams could be switched to usual seminar papers. So in my case, that was possible. We also have large lectures, and those are the teacher students. So the University of Munich is one of the most important, of the largest center for teacher education in Bavaria. And the University of Munich has around 8,000 teacher students. And I taught for several years education psychology for them. And those were written exams, multiple choice exams. So the exam papers are usually scanned. So it's not a problem to grade the exam papers. The problem is the logistics of people being there, going into a room, sitting down, writing the exam papers, not cheating, submitting the exam papers, and going away. So we were not allowed to do anything of this, and we had discussions for months. So we began the term mid-April, and I think it was clarified and officially decided what to do about the exams, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what we are doing is we may not call it online examination, because it's not, it doesn't correspond to the official definition, but it is an online examination. It is called online home work, something like that. And that means all those multiple choice questions are reduced to a smaller number of multiple choice tasks. I prefer the word task to the word question, because when I say question, I mean something, okay, what did I say in my lecture number 4 on slide number 5, something like that. And the students will remember and, or would recognize, oh, he probably didn't say that, but yes, he definitely said that. And okay, so that's the one to tick. So we no longer do that. We have, we try to let our students apply their knowledge. So we no longer use questions of knowledge reproduction. We use questions of knowledge application, and try to bring our students to understand better what they are learning. Well, another luck is that my students, or most of my students, are studying educational sciences, and they are kind of used to think in terms of learning strategies. So what do I have to do? What is the strategy I am applying to do that? So that would be, well, anyway, I think that's my ideal of a good student. They probably, not all of them can think like that, but well, if they studied educational sciences, they should have at least an insight of this. So that's for our faculty. Our university is very large, and I think the most interesting example of a faculty dealing with many students and with very large exams all the time is the Faculty of Medicine. So the medicine in Munich has, I would say, a long-term tradition. So I know them for 30 years, doing research on medical education. So how to educate students. And I don't remember very well in which of the presentation was that, but I think Diana. Our medicine faculty has also large databases of exam tasks. And of course, this is nothing that you can do overnight. So you need time, you need many years to collect the materials you need for exams and to establish a framework for that exam. So for instance, our colleagues from the medicine, they are also doing research for a very long time on problem-based learning in medicine. And they have a very clear framework for problem-based learning in medical education. And to that, they also have a corresponding framework from problem-based exams. So practically it's the same cases they study. They can study those cases one way in while teaching, while learning, and without the support during exams. So it's the same case. It's just and they just put it the other way around for courses and for exams. And they made the beginning. They were so this framework for problem-based learning at university was then extended to other faculties as well. For example, what's the English name for that? For law, yes. So people in law, lawyers and so on, they also operate with cases. It's the same as in medicine. And then they came back to us. We also work with cases, for example, in pedagogical diagnosis or in pedagogical counseling. So problem-based learning and case-based learning is very well established in several faculties in Munich. And I think it was very, very helpful also during this crisis situation, because
okay, thanks a lot, Nick, for your perspective. And I would like to finish the first run asking Albert to provide to his own perspective from the Spanish country, let's say.
You need to unmute.
Albert, I don't hear you. You should unmute your microphone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I repeat that. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in such an open debate. And I would like to send my greetings to some of the people that know from here, Diana, Marcello, and other people, Donatella, that are close friends to me. So I will try to be short in that sense, because I think that it's important to identify the trends that have not been repeated as the other cases. So the first thing is that we have been living a historical situation here, because for the first time it has been that the educational institutions have locked down all the institutions for a long time, for months. So this is the first time in history in Spain that it happens. So it means that there were no previous planification, previous planning about that. So the thing was that we should provide the kind of emergency measure that was probably not the best one, but the only one that was feasible at that particular situation, as it happened in other parts of the world. But in our case, all the schools, all the universities were closed, completely closed. So this was unexpected for any single people here. So there were a lot of issues, very difficult to handle them. And we identified some problems that, in fact, they existed before, but the pandemic made us to be conscious, to be aware about these problems even more. And we identified that there was a lack of training on this kind of, because lack of training on moving online, because even if we can say that everything is online, it is not at all. So we say that we agree on the idea of remote teaching that is not going online at all. And this is what it didn't work. So it is the fact that we have identified in our experience in that. So on the other hand, teachers at schools and universities, they did everything they could, even more sometimes, but they didn't apply any online model because you need to design this kind of teaching, and they couldn't do that because we should start the day after we were noticed that the schools were going to be closed. So we cannot expect similar results as if we have planned this kind of online education. And we find several problems, but anyway, trying to follow the structure Carlo has suggested, we can say that we identified some strengths, and the first one probably is the capacity to react unexpectedly, although the uncertainty, but people did their best. And this was the reason because some situations seemed to be overcome, but the fact is that situations still are there. There was also a positive aspect that is an increase of individual awareness on the way everyone learns and on the way some things are working for learning and some things are not. Even more traditional things, today, a lot of people have identified that these traditional ones didn't work. But well, the tradition says they work, so it's okay. But when you can see that in a different perspective, they don't. In my university, you know that we are a fully online university, the Open University of Catalonia. So things were not going very differently in the sense that from the very beginning we were online. So our students were studying and participating and sending all the assignments as usual. So only in those cases, in students from Latin American countries, that in some extent they had some slight problems because the huge number of people trying to connect, they made that some of the servers were slower than usual. But in general, we didn't identify important or let's say highlighting problems to take into consideration. At the general Spanish level, the Ministry of Universities asked UNED and UOC to create a university portal in order to provide a number of resources on online education and to put them accessible to the rest of universities. We did that, but it didn't work very much because you know, the rest of the face-to-face universities, they consider online is easy, so we can manage it very well. And that's not true. So the real result at the end was that they had a lot of problems and so on. What are the weaknesses we had identified? First, an evidence that the current training system and professional development for teachers for the integration of ICT in education doesn't work very well. This is one of the evidence we have now, because at the end, when things are not doing the same but through technology, it doesn't work. So it's difficult to transform, to really transform the design of teaching and learning in a different, for a different context. People are too used to replicate what they usually do in face-to-face in an online scenario. On the other hand, this means that there are some limitations on the teaching digital competence to teach online from the teachers. Doesn't matter if we are talking about university level or school level, there are important limitations. And finally, considering the students and the families, it was clear that there is a digital divide. Of course, we knew there was, as usual. The problem is that usually people try not to see the evidence and say that, well, could be a problem, but at this particular moment, it was a problem because everyone saw how some people couldn't access to the connections, couldn't have some laptops or mobile phones available and so on. But this is not an issue for the teachers or the institutions. This is an issue for administrations and governments that have to support the connections, and they have to develop the access to the internet as a universal right, because it's the way currently in the digital society is the way to access to the information and later also to the knowledge. But coming from these two strengths and weaknesses, I think that we can identify at least two big opportunities. The first one is that the digital divide can be shortened, and we should. So it's possible to do it because some of the actions that the governments started to do, not only at the national level, but also at the regional levels, started by providing new connections to the people that didn't have any, and providing also laptops, tablets, other kind of computers, devices in general, in order to be connected and go on with this online provision. Because the fact was, it was not about blended and about hybrid. It was nothing. So the alternative was online or nothing. And that it was very interesting. This was very interesting because we always hear or listen to other people saying, well, the best thing is to do something blended. Probably it's true, but when the problem is that there is no alternative, the only feasible thing is to try to do online as well as we can. And that's the problem. We cannot do that if we don't have training enough, if we don't develop our digital competence enough to. This is the first one.
Thanks, Albert.
Well, there is just another one, the final one. I think that considering the length of the other colleagues, just the last one is to develop further research and initiatives that could explore the potential of the two continuums for the sake of new ways of learning and education, the formal-informal continuum and the in-presence online continuum, as ways to raise more and different learning opportunities for people facing further crises in the world. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To be also so short. I will not give you the perspective from Italian side. Maybe someone else that will intervene in the debate will provide it. I just would like to ask the panelists to be very short in the second run. I would like first I would like to make just a summary of what I catch from what you say. So, I mean, you have seen that everyone is very keen to narrate his own experience because it was actually a very strong experience. And this is also understandable because we live to narrate actually, and hopefully sometimes to narrate our experience. So basically, it seems that the main strength has been represented by the humans. So that they were very capable to react and possibly to support what has been defined by Monica Dagnat. And the other very important strength is the design culture that include also the ability, the capability to support what I call a PQBL, problem, project, and process-based learning. among the danger, I can underline the thing that technologies are only for emergency. We have heard a lot about technologies, but of course, one of the point view that emerges that a lot of people thought that use technologies just an emergential solution. And also the other danger with technology seems to be happy when it's possible to remain in our own comfort zone and replicate the classroom dynamics. That, of course, include all the problematics that we heard about exam modalities. And of course, the very concrete, another very concrete danger is the access to internet. That should be a human right in order to avoid digital divide. And what is very surprising in some sense, that it emerged all over in Europe, not just in the most, let's say, developed or country, but apparently is a common emergence from all the countries in Europe. So again, about dangers, but this time for the future, it seems that, well, actually it happens. I mean, during the lockdown, a lot of people start to reflect on what is essential for their own life. So the danger for the future is not to think what is essential for educational environment, educational process. So why we should not start to ask what is relevant, essential in the present educational processes? Why we should not try to start and think what is essential about physicality in some sense? I may ask why schools should reopen exactly as before, as they were designed basically during the industrialization time. This is a really an open question. And I mean, we may ask, because we are thinking about what is essential, where is or will be the well-being of the actor of a learning ecosystem? My impression is that now the darknet is leaving in participation. It's now leaving the room. It's going to be replaced by individualization. The discussion that I'm following right now in our country, but I guess also in other countries, about restoration, to restore as soon as possible in order to satisfy the individual needs. So individual needs of parents, individual needs of professors, individual needs of everyone that, of course, is not any longer in their own comfort zone. And of course, another danger, has been underlined by Albert, is really to continue to maintain, to keep in the comfort zone also as far as the professional training is concerned. So now that's all that I would like to really underline. And so I will ask you really 2 minutes, intervention about really one idea, I'll say, for the future, not more than this, because I would like really to leave a little bit of room for the audience. So let's start from Diana. Just one idea for the future. Diana?
So you really, yes, I was paying attention. I was trying to see where I can go into, because I had to prepare also a presentation for that. So I will just go, instead of one idea, I will just want to show to you, excuse me 1 second. Do you see, what do you see? Do you see the presentation? Yes. So in terms of threats, for example, what I was thinking is mainly this uncertainty. That's my way. Nobody knows for sure what it is. And also this idea of going in campus, online, fully online or blended, which I think everybody has, and the tiredness. I never seen so tired students and professors since I've been doing this for almost 22 years now, and so on. And also obviously the different scenarios, so we have time to implement them. But in terms of opportunities, maybe it's exactly that idea of the digital divide which we can shorten, and also the idea of being together and collaborate more. And these are some of the things which we've done until now and how we are thinking of doing it into the future. But I'll make this presentation available, so I will not insist over it. I'm just trying to go to my ideas. So basically I had two ideas. Carlo asked us for crazy ideas. My first one is how we can collaborate. For example, for many, many years, including our MOOCs, I mean the online free courses at university levels, which we try to build for all the universities in Romania, is that how we can share resources. I envision a way where if you teach a course, for example, in Romanian university, then any other Romanian university will be able to pick up your labs, your videos, your demos, even your content, and reuse it and teach it from there. Only add their own personal things and implemented that completely into curricula and be allowed to do it also by regulations, legislation, quality assurance, and so on. And the idea of students as co-creators, as we start doing it for probably the last 10 years in my university, and very strongly in the last 4 years since we've done it as a university policy on doing it. So that's one of my wishes, if you want, one of my craziest ideas, if we can still do it. The other one is micro-credentials, to be able to really issue either, even in Romania or at European level, micro-credentials degree. So either with blockchain, that's something which we are trying to do now, validating diplomas and certificates, and having these open badges somehow really recognized by either the European Union or agencies or something like that. So because we are now, all of us issuing, they're validated by some associations, some of the industry recognize them and some are not. But how to do this properly and implemented it into the future. So these are my two craziest ideas. And all of the rest, I will make it available online. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. What about you, Monica?
So I don't want to focus on ideas because at this time I only have questions, not ideas of outgoing. I think that this is an unprecedented opportunity to rethink the way we think about learning and education at different levels. So I think that we talk about too little about values. What are the values behind our educational system? I would like to see a learning environment that is more inclusive. I think that if something, this experience has shown that if we don't have an inclusive system, more caring. I think that Rebecca was talking a lot about the well-being of students, and we are not good enough at taking care. And I think that caring should get up high in the list. So I think that I would like really to take this discussion about values before and we need to stop about how do we improve the small things with the technology, but try to rethink and use this opportunity. And I think that the main threads we have now is the financial model behind education. We see how much it impacts now on what is happening. We see that, for example, in Norway, we have an unprecedented high number of students registered to university for next year because at time of uncertainty, people think about going to university. We know that in the States or in England, where you have high fees, people are taking a year away and start saying, because the uncertainty doesn't bring them to the university. So I really think that we have also to think about the financial model that we have supporting an inclusive and caring education. And that's mainly it.
Thanks. Stefan, what do you think about? What's your idea?
Thank you. I will try to be in 2 minutes. So my idea is, of course, to use blended learning, hybrid learning, and computer-supported collaborative learning both in small teams, because it's something special. For example, maybe the research of Jerry Stahl, and in communities of practice. We, as Nick said, we collaborate for many years, and we made a lot of studies in this way. Of course, now also with Mihai. Thank you.
Thanks. Rebecca?
Yes, just to recap, that we continue thinking about our students as young people, that we humanize, and therefore we humanize any technology as much as possible. Now, to do that, you've got to understand who you're designing for, who is using the technology and what are their needs and desires, and that is where you can bring in design. But again, don't treat students as a number in the classroom, but you find a way creatively, even under these circumstances, to show students that you care about them, because the kind of problems that they're dealing with and they will deal with in their career are radically different to the ones that we have been. So, and they in fact, that empathetic approach is going to what is already characterizing business. So this is my small contribution in this space. Thanks, Carla.
Thanks, Rebecca. What's about you, Nick?
Okay, there it is. I have a very big expectation from my students. I expect activity. Very much in the sense of self-regulated activity, of motivation, of agency, that is being them, wanting themselves to do something, to learn something. It is a problem. So for many students, it seems to be comfortable to be just passive or reactive. So I would hope that at the best of them, my students are active and constructive, and yeah, that's also a question of us, of teachers. So are we giving them the right impulses and motivation to get them active? And well, if we talk about educational scientists, I can be very optimistic. I think so, but not everybody is an educational scientist, and I think we still have to establish this culture of learning, and it should be a culture of learning that also supports also online teaching and learning.
Thanks, Nick. Fernando, what is your proposal for the school?
Yes, well, we need simple, flexible, and the model simple, flexible, and can be applied for all ages. Because the organization, the school organization, needs one model only for third to up to secondary school. And our example, we think it's a good example that could be flexible for 3 or 4, 5, 6 years ages, or for 17, 15 years old for the students. The model could be applied with a physical part as a blended learning. I think it's what matter, the feasible, sample, and a model that can be applied for all students, not for university or for secondary school. No, we need one only model, because the teachers need to know in the same organization the model. I think it's our main target. we need also the skills of the teachers. Yes, they need to be more expertise in the skills of the teachers to use the technology. It's
Thanks, Albert.
Yes. Very, very short, because unfortunately I will have to leave the meeting, because I thought that we finished at 6 and I have another meeting later. Well, it has started. But I think that very short, the idea would be to be open to unexpected and discontinuous in-presence teaching models to deal with uncertainty. So as far as we are not able to say how things are going to be, we should be ready for different scenarios. So we should prepare this, considering that some other confinements, some other alternates and presence at the schools and at the universities could happen. So as a second time, it cannot happen as the first one. So this means to give up the traditional face-to-face based approaches and to think in different approaches from a different look, from a different side, in the sense that things are not physical and then we can add something, but we should to think in a scenario that it's digital and introducing the opportunities to do things face-to-face when we can. If we do that, probably the design of this kind of activities would be much better than in other cases. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all. Well, before to open the discussion to the audience, I would like to resume some of the hints that you provide. And actually, it seems that for the future we should reflect about blended. But the question is, which sort of blending? So just Albert, in just a few seconds ago, say that we should think about this continuous present model and uncertainly. This reminds me when a few years ago I was promoting as much as possible the design for imperfection. Why design for imperfection? Because of course it means that you are dealing with the open path. And this means that in some sense you should develop in the student as much as possible the meta design competencies. That is something more about design competencies. And it seems from what you say that we should think about collaboration, co-creation, and also self-regulation. So blended has to do with all these in some sense. And self-regulation plus let's say a micro-credential or open badge or blockchain, that is also a very fashionable issue at present, has to do with the transformation from a content-based education to a skill-based education. And this is the key point on which probably we should reflect on, because any change will really has to do with moving from a classroom perspective, a content-based perspective, to a skill-based perspective of education. And another issue that came out is the well-being and values of that are behind the educational process. And this also remind me some of the key based element of our association, because the smartness of learning ecosystem is based on a people-centered perspective, so on the well-being of all actors. And then we come to flexibility, being flexible, being simple, being interoperable. And this means empower people. And again, we come back to skills. So behind all that, of course, we can put the financial model. That means also we should also reflect on which should be the goal of education. Because once that we have cleared the goal of education, then of course we can try to find the best financial model. But of course, this is a very relevant issue. So we have a lot of stimulus. We got a lot of stimulus for concerning open dangers and danger for in the past, danger for the future, and also some stimulus about possible, let's say, path of research and also of implementation. So now I would like to open the discussion to the audience. Maybe we will take 15 minutes more with respect to the schedule that we have established at the beginning. And I would like to ask to Elena Railien to give his own opinion in, let's say, as short as possible, let's say 3-5 minutes maximum. And if you have any addition about dangers, or if you have better some ideas for the future, that I will, this is what I will really ask to the audience to provide us. You should switch on. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I'm very proud to be here. I would like, first of all, to present one of my books. This is Psychological and Pedagogical Consideration in Digital Textbooks Use and Development. And I think that this idea, the idea that was in this book about meta-system learning design and about meta cognitive thinking should be on the first place when we speak with our student in remote learning. I'm an associate professor at the American University of Moldova, and for us also was two big questions. First question was how to teach students, what activities provide them to be more motivated, to insight, and the second was the summative assessment. And in the first case, I have prepared a lot of tasks for every lecture that I had, and my students answer at all questions. So if you allow me to share the screen, I can show you this task. Okay, I can share.
Yes, but only a couple of minutes, no more.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thanks.
I would like, so just a second, but I cannot, okay. And the second was, the summative assessment. So for us was very hard to develop the assessment and to have the assessment online. So I would like to share, just a second. I don't know where we're gonna do this. Just a second. So in terms of the, here maybe. So here you can see the examples, the exam, and here you can see our models of questions that we proposed to our students. and you can see here different
Elena,
questions.
luckily we have not too much time. If you can resume without using the screen, please.
I would like to say that one of the biggest question on the remote question is intelligent analysis of open questions. So I think we need to work more on found the solution of how to analyze the open questions. And the second is how to motivate students. In our case, it was the answer to all questions at all provided lectures. And then we developed collaborative textbooks when each student was the author of the chapter. This course was in educational psychology. Not less important in our case is the health issue, because our students that come from different countries, they want to be, how to say, motivated enough. And for me, it's very important to understand how they self-regulate their learning, how they can answer all the questions if have the problems. In this case, if the students have not the best mark, for example, we allow them to repeat the task in order to improve their results. And second, I can say that the metacognitive thinking and the meta-system learning design is the best solution, in my opinion, for the remote question, because the learning will never be the same as before the COVID. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could you unshare the screen, please?
Just a second.
Yeah.
The co-host can do it also, can close.
Okay, thanks you very much. So I don't know if the Griffith is there. Is the Griffith there? No. Okay. So Stavros, would you like to say something?
Hello, just quickly, I must go now, but thank you very much for the invitation. And I put my email address in the chat. So if anyone wants to contact me about anything here at TU Delft, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Many thanks to you all and have a nice afternoon.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, bye. Bye.
Okay, Stavros? Yeah, please.
Well, just 2 minutes to have a comment about the need to support academic colleagues into emergency remote teaching and during the teaching in the post-COVID era, because we don't all we don't have the same digital experience, or we have varying levels of expertise, different levels of confidence on how to deliver online teaching. I think this is an area that we need to focus. Just to mention that we here in the University of Strathclyde, we from the very first moment, we try to put forward a strategy to support colleagues. For example, we initiated a survey about the confidence level of colleagues on how to use the digital tools, also on their perceived needs on training on using different tools. And based on this survey, we implemented a series of in-school interventions on supporting them, from simple things like how to use Zoom, or even how to do digital storytelling or other related things. Beyond that, we also organized some online core sessions, like to sync online to support the well-being. This is just an example, and I close here. It's very important to support academic colleagues into this journey to deliver teaching online. This was my comment. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Stavros. Donatella, do you want to say something? you should try to switch on the microphone. Okay, now switch on. Okay, perfect.
Okay, I said that most of the things I wanted to say have already been said, so I will only mention those that I feel very much that should be very much on focus. And firstly, the fact that emergency remote education has forced many to move online without redesigning, because everything was so fast that there was no possibility to think about a redesign. The second is that it has brought to the attention of teachers, especially school teachers, the inequalities of the conditions, familiar condition and contextual conditions of their students, and the inequality of the way the system is reaching them, and therefore digital divide, but not only digital divide, because the support that the family can give to students cannot be reduced to the provision of technology to attend the lessons. And the last is certainly the importance of promoting students' self-regulation. Thinking about these points, I think what needs to be done is to address these aspects: self-regulation, learning design, and inequalities among our students, and the need to address inclusion, therefore, as main problems, even if the pandemic ends tomorrow and we are not going to have any more problems from this particular virus. I think we have to look at these aspects anyway, and very importantly, because they are problems of our education systems, even without the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Donatella. Oscar, you want to also say something?
Yes, in fact, well, Donatella has just highlighted one of the aspects that I wanted to say. In fact, it was Monica. Monica is still here with us. Monica highlighted also very well the children. And for some years that I've been belonging to parents, to the parent associations, and I still do belong because my youngest son is 13. And the family context, although this pandemic just brought everything up, the family context here is extremely important. And I'm speaking not only of the children, there it's extremely important. And when we're speaking of the digital divide, when we have the whole family at home, some still are able of working remotely. Understand how you get computers or computer devices for everyone to work and support the children's work is something that's almost impossible, not to say impossible. Going into the higher education institutions, where I also have my students, and I was able of understanding what Monica was sharing with us in the first intervention, caring, and that also came up. And although they are, of course, older students, they are university students, some of them are still with their families. And once again, you notice that there are severe problems there. And all this to sum up that it's extremely difficult, not to say impossible, to manage emotion by distance, okay? And as human beings, full of emotions, especially in these specific moments, I think we have to think of very well of what kind of models we are choosing. Of course, thinking blended is extremely important, but what does one and the other dimension do inside this model? Okay, so what will face-to-face dimension of the blended model contribute in this, and what will the more technology-mediated aspects of the model do? This is being an extremely rich experience to understand how we can really apply this and what model do we need for this. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Oscar. I have still a couple of people that asked to intervene. Letizia Cinganotto, are you wishing to say something? You have to, yeah, okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, thank you for this opportunity. I'm a researcher at INDIRE, which is the Italian National Institute for Documentation, Innovation and Educational Research. I would like just to briefly share our experience during this emergency when we did our best to support teachers in remote teaching, and we've been organizing a lot of webinars and initiatives in order to create a sort of community of practice of teachers and school leaders and share their experiences, the solutions they had adopted to cope with this emergency. And what came out was that this community of practice has turned out to be really brave. First of all, since the beginning, they just did their best to reach their students, and so the social emotional learning, social emotional side of learning that you were mentioning is was one of the first goal, because they did their best to reach to keep this relationship going on, and so keep this sort of human touch with the students, especially at the very beginning. And they used any sort of device, any sort of social network or other tools to reach this goal. Then, of course, everything became a little bit more systematic, and with this, using different tools, using different platforms, starting from, of course, sort of disorientation at the initial stage. But then what we realized was that they learning from each other, and trying to use different platforms, different web tools. They soon, or almost the majority of them, soon realized that it was not possible to replicate the face-to-face lesson model, but they had to, of course, reshape, to rethink their teaching style, also the curriculum, so working through core concepts and not the whole curriculum they had planned at the beginning. So of course, they try to use, a lot of teachers try to use different tools in order to activate cooperation, using, for example, breakout rooms, doing live sessions with the students. So what we found out was that they, well, of course, considering the digital divide we had in Italy, and considering the different infrastructures and all the problems that we have also with the different digital skills that our teachers have, mainly, I mean, they all try to do their best to reach their students and to put into practice any forms of remote teaching. And what we're doing now is to try to capitalize, try to sort of enhance these lessons learned. So now that we just received, yesterday, the Minister of Education issued the guidelines for next school year for reopening schools in September, we are trying to capitalize the main lessons learned from this emergency. We are going to, of course, go back to school in presence with some sort of blended, especially for secondary school students, according to these guidelines. So we hope that this experience, of course, will be somehow helpful also to reshape and innovate our curricula and our teachers' way of planning and designing and implementing their teaching activities. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks for your contribution. And Julia Pazov, are you wishing to say something?
Thank you. I think everything that I wanted to mention was already noted by the other speakers. Thank you so much. I have nothing to comment at the moment.
Okay. So is there anyone else from the audience that would like to intervene? So if no one wants to say anything else, I think I would like to thank all the panelists and the member of the audience that gave their contribution. Thanks a lot for the very exciting discussion, and we are mostly in time, only 4 minutes later, so it's perfect to me. And thanks again, and hope to have the opportunity to continue the discussion when everyone will be back, when actually we should try to capitalize, as has been said by Letizia, and so have the opportunity to discuss again and together the next steps that we should try to follow. So thanks again, and enjoy the conference, SLERD conference tomorrow, and tonight the food contest that has been organized by Miai. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for the organization.
Miai, would like to say something about? Okay, let's go on. Okay,
No,
yeah,
yeah.
about
No,
the food contest.
everyone, yes, everyone.
What time we should come back to?
So the plan was 7 p.m. CET time, but if you're a little bit late, we perfectly understand.
Yeah, because it just finished now.
Yeah.
So
Mihai, can we come if we don't do cooking?
Yeah, sure.
What is the rules? I mean, we should show how to cook. We should write how to cook. What exactly you expect?
So no, the rules of engagement were simple. So 3 pictures: an initial picture, something in the middle, so to prove that you have actually cooked the meal and you haven't ordered it on Uber Eats, and the final result, which will be
so only 3 pictures, no movie.
No movie, no.
Okay.
We trust you.
Okay, perfect. So we'll meet at 7 more or less.
Okay, but where should we put the pictures? Upload them somewhere?
I think that, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll create a link and we'll distribute it in the social lounge.
Okay, so thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao Maria José.